हाईलाइट नंबर 1 है। हाईलाइट नंबर 2, GDP growth dips to 6.3% as manufacturing slides। फर्स्ट हाईलाइट में है न्यूज़, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग एंड माइनिंग आउटपुट कॉन्ट्रैक्टेड ईयर ऑन ईयर इन जुलाई सितंबर क्वार्टर, ड्रैगिंग ग्रॉस वैल्यू एडेड ग्रोथ टू अ slower than expected 5.6%, which together with high inflation and weak exports combined to slow overall GDP growth to a 6.3% pace, as per estimates released by the National Statistical Office। थर्ड पे हाईलाइट है, China on Wednesday said it had expressed its concern to India over the joint India-US military exercise युद्ध अभ्यास being conducted in Uttarakhand about 100 km from the line of actual control LAC। फोर्थ हाईलाइट है, Jiang Zemin who oversaw China's economic transformation passes away। Former Chinese leader Jiang Zemin who led China during a decade of extraordinary economic growth passes away in Shanghai on Wednesday, aged 96। Mr. Jiang's death comes at an extraordinary time for Chinese politics and days after protest in many Chinese cities on a scale not seen since 1989, a year when the death of a pro-reform leader Hu Yaobang catalyzed a pro-democracy student movement। पेज नंबर 7 पे सेकंड हाईलाइट है, द सुप्रीम कोर्ट ऑन वेडनेसडे सेड द स्पोर्ट ऑफ द जल्लीकट्टू एज सच नाउ माइट नॉट बी ब्रूटल बट द फॉर्म इन विच इट वॉज बीइंग हेल्ड इन तमिलनाडु माइट बी क्रूअल। अ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बेंच लेड बाय जस्टिस KM Joseph said the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Tamil Nadu Amendment Act 2017 and Prevention of Cruelty to Animals constraining together conduct of Jallikattu rules of 2017 had laid down procedures to protect the bulls from brutality. Violation of these rules would attract penal action। First highlighter, suppose Jallikattu is the only way traditionally for a poor man to get married to the local landlord's daughter. He has to get at the trinkets of the horns of the bull. This is a tradition which has been going from time immemorial. Consider the cruelty shown to that young man, asked Justice Hrishikesh Roy. It is not cruelty, it is just the deprivation of an opportunity for the young man to advance his position. Cruelty is to animal who is forced without choice to be part of it, Senior Advocate Shyam Diwan responded। थर्ड हाईलाइट है कि केरलाज मैन एनिमल कॉन्फ्लिक्ट मिटिगेशन टीम सिलेक्टेड फॉर वाइल्ड लाइफ ट्रस्ट ऑफ इंडिया अवार्ड। पेज नंबर 8 पे सेकंड है, माल न्यूट्रिशन exacerbates the magnitude of the public health crisis we face and is India's most serious challenge and concern, as in National Family Health Survey 5 data, every second Indian woman is anemic, every third child is stunted and malnourished, and every fifth child is wasted. According to the FAO Food Security Report for 2021, India ranks 101 out of 116 countries in the Global Hunger Index 2021 with the 15.3% undernourished population, the highest proportion of stunted children 30% and wasted children 17.3%. The picture of the Global Nutrition Report 2021 paints is a cause of concern, noting that stunting among children in India is significantly higher than the Asian average of 21.8%. First highlight है कि put simply, food fortification is the process of adding nutrients to food. For instance, rice and wheat are fortified with iron, folic acid and vitamin B12, and salt fortified with iron and iodine. Iodized salt has been in use for the past few decades. Third highlight, pilot projects on the distribution of fortified rice have been taken up in selected states including Maharashtra, that is Gadchiroli district, as part of the targeted public distribution program. The program has been a success in terms of preventing cases of anemia from 58.9% to 29.5% within a span of 2 years, prompting the central government to declare the scaling up of the distribution of fortified rice, the major staple diet of the 65% of the population, through the existing platform of social safety nets such as the PDS, ICDS, and PM Poshan. Experiences from the different states on the fortified rice project so far tally with the results of the global programs that use fortified food as a cost-effective strategy. The health benefits accruing from food fortification have made 80 countries to frame laws for the fortification of cereal flour and 130 countries with iodized salt, where 13 countries have mandated rice fortification. The encouraging results of the pilot program in the Gadchiroli district have prompted the proposed large-scale food fortification program, which includes fortified rice in all safety net government schemes. The study found a promising reduction, 29.5%, in the prevalence of anemia among women, adolescent girls, and children put together in Gadchiroli district. Next है sixth highlight in Gujarat, an 8-month-long study on the multiple micronutrient fortified rice intervention for school children 6 to 12 years in 2018-19 as part of the midday meal scheme found increased hemoglobin concentration, 10% reduction in the anemia prevalence, and more importantly improved average cognitive scores by 11.3%. Iron deficiency anemia is a major public health concern because it is responsible for 3.6% of disability adjusted life years or dailies, years of the life lost due to premature mortality, and years lived with disability, according to the WHO. That is a loss of 47 million dailies or years of healthy life lost. Next is, according to Niti Aayog, based on the WHO meta-analysis on the impact of the rice fortification, a rice fortification budget of around 2,800 crore per year can save 35% of the total, or 16.6 million dailies per year with no known risk of toxicity. In India, the cost of one daily lost due to iron deficiency anemia is approximately Rs 30,000, while the cost of averting an IDA-related daily is only 1,545, resulting in a cost-benefit ratio of 1:18. Rice fortification, which costs less than 1% of the food subsidy bill 2018-19, has the potential to prevent 94.1 million anemia cases, saving 8,098 crore over a 5-year period. Despite the program's proven efficacy, activists have expressed concern that the excess iron overload from the fortified rice has been dangerous for Jharkhand's tribal population, suffering from sickle cell anemia and thalassemia. Iron levels in fortified rice range from 28 mg to 42.5 mg. Folic acid levels from 75 microgram to 125 microgram, and vitamin B12 levels from 0.7 microgram to 1.2 microgram FSSAI standards. Considering the per capita intake in a family of 3 members with a rice consumption of approximately 60 grams per person, the additional intake is 2.5 mg of iron. This in fact compensates our daily losses of iron from the body, which is 1 mg to 2 mg per day. Food fortification, according to stalwarts of nutrition, is a cost-effective complementary strategy to address multiple micronutrient deficiencies. Thus, given its proven efficacy and cost-effectiveness, food fortification can help us in reducing micronutrient deficiencies and address overall health benefits. The intervention, carried out with precautions, is the key to the malnutrition issue which the nation continues to grapple with. 9th page by highlight type, the 255th report of the Law Commission, chaired by the Justice A.P. Shah, said the appointment of all the election commissioners should be made by the President in consultation with the 3-member collegium consisting of Prime Minister, the Leader of Opposition of the Lok Sabha, or the Leader of the largest opposition party in the Lok Sabha, and the Chief Justice of India. It also suggested measures to safeguard election commissioners from arbitrary removal in a manner similar to what is accorded to the Chief Election Commissioner, who can only be removed by impeachment, which is by no means easy. None of these recommendations gained traction in the governments to whom they were submitted. Page number 10. First highlight, what is a ransomware? Ransomware क्या है? Ransomware is a type of malicious software used by cyber criminals to infect a computer system by blocking access to the stored data by encrypting the files. A ransom is then demanded from the owner in exchange for the decryption key. While it is not yet clear as to how exactly the AIM's computer systems were targeted, the malware may usually be injected remotely by tricking the user into downloading it upon clicking an ostensibly safe web link sent via email or other means, including hacking. Are ransomware attacks increasing in India? What happened at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences? How does a ransomware infect a computer? How many organizations in India are working towards cybercrime responses and prevention? In May, SpiceJet had faced such a threat while public sector undertaking Oil India was targeted on April 10. Cybersecurity firm Trellix, in its third quarter global report, has identified 25 major ransomwares in circulation. Which agencies in India deal with the cyber attacks? Set up in 2004, the Indian Computer Emergency Response Team (CERT-IN) is the national nodal agency that collects, analyzes, and circulates inputs on cyber attacks, issues guidelines, advisories for preventive measures, forecasts, and issues alerts, and takes measures to handle any significant cyber security event. It also imparts training to computer system managers. The National Cyber Security Coordinator under the National Security Council Secretariat coordinates with different agencies at the national level on cyber security issues, while the National Critical Information Infrastructure Protection Center has been set up for the protection of national critical information infrastructure. Swachhta Kendra Botnet Cleaning and Malware Analysis Center has been launched for detection of malicious software programs and to provide free tools to remove the same, while the National Cyber Coordination Center works on creating awareness about existing and potential threats. Page number 12. First highlight: the Supreme Court on Wednesday quizzed petitioners about the reason for not challenging the constitutional validity of a specific provision in the Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act, which gives the Delimitation Commission the power to carry out the readjustment of the constituencies in the UT formed after the deletion of the Article 370 in the erstwhile state. 16. Third highlight: the Justice Oka said the notifications drew their power specifically from the specific notifications issued by the centre drew their power specifically from Section 62 Clause 2 of the Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization 2019 Act. Justice A.S. Oka, Supreme Court, 62 Clause 2 of the 2019 Act. Section 62 Clause 2 provides for the readjustment of the constituencies to be carried out by the Delimitation Commission. The court asked why the petitioners, without challenging the source of the government's notification, that is the Section 62 Clause 2, has confined their challenge solely to the notifications. The petitioners, represented by the senior advocate Ravi Shankar Jandiala and advocates Sriram Prakat and M.S. Vishnu Shankar, argued that only the Election Commission under Section 60 of the 2019 Act was empowered to conduct the delimitation exercise. They further argued before the bench that Article 170 of the Constitution barred delimitation exercise on the basis of the 2011 census. It had to either happen on the basis of 2001 census or await the first census after the year 2026. The petitioners alleged that the Section 60 and 61 of the 2019 Act, which defined the role of the Election Commission in the process of delimitations, were in contradiction to the Section 62. The government has countered that there were two alternative mechanisms to carry out delimitation for Jammu and Kashmir by virtue of Section 60-61. While the power to determine delimitation was conferred on the Election Commission, Section 62 Clause 2 and 62 Clause 3 conferred powers to carry out delimitation on the Commission. Second highlight है कि 16 drones shot down along the Pakistan border this year. BSF, the paramilitary force, does not have foolproof anti-drone technology, though some firms are working on an indigenous solution and the centre is trying to procure a vehicle-mounted system. Page number 14. In rural areas, women are experts in removing weeds. They are a part of the labor force in the agriculture in India. It brings them employment. You know, it is because women started agriculture that humankind stopped being nomads, and we saw the sprouting of civilization. Justice B.V. Nagratha observed orally while hearing challenges against the environmental clearances given to genetically modified mustard by the center. Supreme Court worried over the effects of the GM crops on livelihood of the women farm laborers. Petitions challenge environmental nod given to the GM mustard. Petitioners say widespread use of the herbicide tolerant crops will encourage farmers to spray chemical weed killers, leaving large amounts of toxic chemical residue on the crops. The Supreme Court's own technical expert committee had said that these GM crops were not meant for agriculture in India and in the Indian context. They may be suitable in the Western context where there are large farms, but not here, Mr. Parikh argued. मिस्टर भूषण मतलब कि प्रशांत भूषण जी ने क्या बोला, सेट दी डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ बायोटेक्नोलॉजी हैड फंडेड DMH11 यानी कि धारा मस्टर्ड हाइब्रिड 11 and then was part of the regulatory mechanism. The environmental release of the hybrid mustard variety was cleared despite warnings from the parliamentary committee and the Supreme Court's technical expert committee reporting calling for its ban. Besides, the government had not placed the biosafety dossier on the GM crop in the public domain. He said GM mustard, if approved for commercial cultivation, would be the first genetically modified food crop available to Indian farmers. He recalled how BT brinjal was withdrawn by the government years ago after the regulatory system was found riddled with inconsistencies. Hybrid crops should not be released in the open fields and allowed to contaminate other crops. It would trigger a chain reaction which would be irreversible. Supreme Court on Wednesday sought the government's response about evaluating a project Great Indian Bustard conservation program like the Project Tiger to bring attention at the peril faced by the critically endangered bird. Project Tiger is touted by the government as one of the most successful conservation programs for a single species in the world. Can we not have a focused approach by the Environment Ministry involving something like Project Tiger? Take instructions on it, have a word with the minister and come back to us on it. Chief Justice D.Y. Chandrachud addressed Attorney General R. Venkataramani and Additional Solicitor General. Next tag is 160 to 200 million Indians could be exposed to lethal heat waves annually, World Bank report. Next step, from 2030, 160 million to 200 million people can be exposed to lethal heat waves in India every year, and nearly 34 million Indians will face job losses due to the heat stress related productivity decline. By 2037, the demand for cooling is likely to be 8 times more than the current level, the World Bank has said in a report. In this scenario, it is imperative for India to deploy alternative and innovative energy efficient technologies for keeping spaces cool. According to the report, climate investment opportunities in India's cooling sector, this could open an investment opportunity of 1.6 trillion by 2040, besides reducing greenhouse gas emissions significantly and creating 3.7 million jobs. With the demand for cooling shooting up, there will be a demand for a new air conditioner every 15 seconds, the report said. The report proposes a roadmap to support New Delhi's India Cooling Action Plan ICAP 2019 through new investments in 3 major sectors: building construction, cold chain and refrigerants. Adopting climate responsive cooling techniques as a norm in both private and government funded constructions can ensure that those at the bottom of the economic ladder are not disproportionately affected by rising temperatures. The report suggests that India's affordable housing program for the poor, the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, can adopt such changes on scale. It proposed enacting a policy of district cooling, which could lead to the consumption of 20 to 30% less power than the most efficient conventional cooling solutions. District cooling technologies generate chilled water in a central plant, which is then distributed to buildings via underground insulated pipes. This brings down the cost of the providing cooling to the individual buildings. Apart from this, guidelines for implementation of local and citywide urban cooling measures such as cool roofs should also be considered. India's cooling strategy can help save lives and livelihoods and reduce carbon emissions. पेज नंबर 17 पे है Russian and Chinese strategic bombers on Wednesday flew a joint patrol over the Western Pacific in a show of increasingly close defense ties between the two countries. The Russian defense minister said the Tu-295 bombers of the Russian Air Force and the Chinese H-6K bombers flew over the Sea of Japan and East China Sea during an 8-hour mission. Russian-Chinese bombers fly joint patrols over the Pacific. Drills show increasingly close defense ties between the two countries. In September, Beijing had sent 2,000 troops for the exercise with Russia. Page number 16 है. The government's fiscal deficit in end October touched 45.6% of the full year budget estimate, according to the data released by the Controller General of the Accounts on Wednesday. This compares with 36.3% seen a year earlier. For financial year 23, the fiscal deficit of the government is estimated to be 16.61 lakh crore or 6.4% of the GDP. India's core sector growth braked to 0.1% in October. Natural gas output shrank for a fourth straight month, contracting 4.2%. Cement production contracted 4.3% from a year earlier and was also 2.4% below the level of the output in September. The Reserve Bank's modified guidelines on digital lending for customers who had taken loans prior to September 2 will come into force from Thursday. The guidelines seek to protect customers from unethical loan recovery practices. In order to ensure a smooth transition, the Reserve Bank of India had given time till November 30 to regulated entities to put in place adequate systems and processes to ensure compliance of the guidelines for digital loans sanctioned before September 2. Under the new norms, all loan disbursals and repayments are required to be executed only between the bank accounts of the borrower and regulated entities such as banks and NBFCs without any pass-through pool account of the lending service providers. Any fees, charges, etc. payable to LSPs in the credit intermediation process shall be paid directly by RE and not by the borrowers. मतलब regulated entities and not by the borrowers, the RBI said while conveying the regulatory stance. Next last है, a government appointed gas price review panel led by Kirit Parekh on Wednesday submitted its report to the government recommending a floor and ceiling price for legacy fields and complete pricing freedom starting January 1, 2026. Currently, fields in the deep sea or in high temperature, high pressure zones are governed by a different formula that includes an element of imported LNG cost, but the same is also subject to a ceiling. Such producers have marketing and pricing freedom, which is constrained. The Kirit Parekh panel also suggested including natural gas in the One Nation One Tax GST regime by an upper bound fixed by the government. We have suggested continuing with the cap for 3 years and giving total pricing freedom from January 1, 2026, removing the cap, he said. The panel also suggested including natural gas in the One Nation One Tax regime of GST by subsuming excise duty charged by the centre and varying rates of the VAT levied by the state governments.